All right, this is Deanna Marie, and welcome back to the Clusie. And today we are going to be talking about your Exodus season. Okay, so let's get started. All right, so Bible reference, long one today. If you guys want to read, start reading Exodus 1 and work your way through chapter 15. Okay, and there's a lot to unpack here, so take your time. It shouldn't take you a day. Don't feel like you gotta rush through it. Just let God speak to you how he wants to speak to you. Okay, so I'm just going to point out a couple things for that I feel are just important when reading this. Okay, the first thing is when you're reading it, Moses tries to do what God wanted him to do eventually later on, but Moses tries to do it by himself in the beginning. He tries to kind of set the people free, but God doesn't help him at that moment because it wasn't the right timing. God always has a specific time for things that he wants to do and accomplish with you. So it's very, very specific. He's very strategic. Okay. And Moses, when he tries to do it in the beginning, it doesn't go well. And then he runs off, and hides out in the wilderness for a little bit. And he's just minding his own business. Life is going as usual. And then God shows up when he least expects it. When he least expects it, it's bam. God's like, hey, we're going to go back and do what you were trying to do to begin with. But now Moses is humbled a little bit. He's not the same. Before he was being groomed to be Pharaoh. So he kind of had almost like a big head. And so this humbling, this wilderness, some of you guys have been humbled too. Now God can use you how he wants to use you because, and if Moses would have had everything planned out and how he did it, it wouldn't have worked out the best for Moses because he wasn't humble yet. And God needed him to be humble because he had to be a leader of a lot of people. You can't be very prideful and be a leader, so he needed to work on him. That's what the wilderness was. And that was what the wilderness was for a lot of you guys. And now God's getting ready to say, hey, we're getting ready to go back and do what I told you to do a long time ago. But now you're going to be able to handle the blessing. Now everything's going to work out according to my will and how I want it done because now you're humbled. Now you're willing to listen. And now you're not going in there by yourself. That's the other point. God goes back with Moses this time. He's like, Moses, we're going back. And Moses is like, no. I tried this before. It didn't work. I'm not going back there, But he doesn't understand that God's going with him. God's going with him this time. It's a completely different scenario when God's with you. If you try to do something by yourself, and that's what Moses did in the beginning. He tried to set the people free by himself. It didn't work. It didn't go anywhere. In fact, it made Moses just take off running because he was scared, right? This next time when he goes back, God takes Pharaoh and he literally destroys that whole city, town. He does all of that stuff for Moses because Moses doesn't go back alone. And so some of you guys, God's put this big calling on your life. You have these big things that you're supposed to accomplish in life. I always talk about it. Some of you guys are going to be celebrity status, or you're going to be well known, public speaking, TV, marriages, all this stuff. And you have a big calling on your life. You need to, and some of you guys might be a little intimidated by it. But you need to understand that you're not going into this situation without God. He's going with you. He's going to be there right with you. He's going to be your protector. He's going to be giving you wisdom. You're not going alone this time. It's a completely different scenario. So there's no reason to fear when you know that God's standing there with you. Okay? The next thing, very important. Do not let the enemy intimidate you when you go back and you get this opportunity and you're doing what you're doing. Okay? Do not let him intimidate you because that's what happens. Moses shows up and they're battling out and Moses throws his staff down, it turns into snakes, and then Pharaoh's like, I can do the same thing, and then then you got the blood, the water changing into blood, and Pharaoh is like, yeah, I can do that too. And eventually it gets to the point where God's doing so much stuff that the enemy can't keep up. So when Moses changed his staff to snake, or when God does it for Moses, And Pharaoh does the same thing. Moses could have been like, man, I can't handle this. I didn't know that he could do the same thing as me. But he doesn't. He stands his ground because he knows God's with him. So when you go into this situation, you stand your ground too, because God's on your side. You're the majority. The enemy should be scared of you. And I know when Moses and those people left, Pharaoh was definitely intimidated. He was like, whoa, their God just destroyed my whole town. And he knew who God was really with at the end of that, okay? So do not, under any circumstances, be afraid or let the enemy intimidate you when you get asked to do what God's asking you to do. You stand your ground and you understand that God is on your side and you are the majority, because that is the truth, all right? So anyways, like, share, subscribe, comment as always, and I will see you guys back here next time.